Julie, you're up.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am not Jean Eddy. I am Julie Lammers from American Student Assistance. Unfortunately, Jean was not able to join us today, but I am thrilled to be here in her place. I am Julie Lammers, Senior Vice President of Advocacy and Corporate Social Responsibility for American Student Assistance, and I'm really thrilled to join you for the Coalition for Career Development Center Summit today. ASA is a national nonprofit that's working to change the way middle school and high school students learn about careers and navigate education to career opportunities. Like the CCDC, we hope to be a catalyst for change. ASA advocates for an early start approach to career readiness. We believe that young people must have access to high quality career exploration by the end of middle school and be able to test and try career interests before leaving high school and having to make decisions of great consequence. At ASA, we work to increase access to high quality career readiness experiences. We provide free digital career learning experiences for kids in middle and high school. We also work with partners to foster innovation in career education solutions and fuel investment and policy change in the career readiness ecosystem. In addition, we're always looking to learn more about how we can improve systems and services to better improve outcomes for young people to be successful in their education to career journey. That's why I'm so pleased to be introducing my colleague, Dr. Scott Solberg. Scott is professor in the Department of Counseling and Applied Human Development at Boston University Wheelock College of Education and Human Development. He's also the Vice President of Research for the CCDC Center and is leading this research work. Scott has published more than 50 professional articles and reports that focus on career development for youth, including how to promote optimal youth development and college and career readiness. And he works regularly with states to drive policy change and practice in career readiness. ASA is proud to partner with Scott and the CCDC for this important research study on the state of career readiness in the United States. We strive to make it a priority, and the CCDC has created this Condition of Career Readiness report to identify gaps and understand how we can make progress to career readiness outcomes. I'm sure you are just as eager as I am to hear more about this report. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Dr. Scott Solberg. Scott?
All right, thank you, Julie, so much. And thank you, American Student Assistance as well for all of your support. I'm gonna go to share my screen here. Okay, I think we're in good shape. So yes, thank you so much for the remarks. I want to thank Carolyn Lee too for her really powerful commentary and really demonstrating what our coalition is about, which is helping industry really take a lead role in supporting career readiness in so many different levels. We're going to be, start my video. I thought I had. Thank you. We're going to be taking a little adventure through this report, which we're so excited. We're releasing today not only the Condition of Career Readiness in the United States report, we're also going to be putting out a national map, an interactive map of the different career readiness policies. We're hoping you're going to get excited and want to see how your state is doing in some of these areas. We have 3 case studies from CASEL that we're excited to share with you all. They're highlighting the intersectionality of what some of these states are doing around the whole personalized career and academic plan, social emotional learning, workforce development. We also have a report that CASEL sent out last week that we helped to author with Civic and CASEL. That's a nice developmental framework. And then we've got a really exciting one from Colorado that's really showing what happens when you invest in career advising and the impact it can have. So we're going to talk right now about the report, but we've got plenty of other things that we've been working on as well. Wanted to show you our contributing authors. This has been a big project with multiple people that have been involved, and we're so proud that people wanted to work with us on this and the investment that they've made. We have a science committee that I wanted to recognize as well. This is for our center. They gave us tremendous feedback at the beginning and through the process. And then it keeps going, right? We have 2 major sponsors. American Student Assistance is really underwriting the report, and CASEL helped us with the case study, so we want to thank them. And then also just want to point out, to get this report really launched, we had to go back to many of the different national organizations, federal agencies, and supports to really go through all the different pieces of what we've done, and they've been fabulous. Our federal program officers in Washington, D.C. were always responsive, ready to meet They would bring whoever they needed to bring into the conversation to make sure we had the right data, make sure our interpretations were correct. Advanced CTE played a very important role in all of this as well. I want to thank them. So, so there we go. There's all the beginning part. Let's get to the real meat. So what is this report about? What makes this report different is we're really focusing on the number of states that are meeting the bar around a variety of career readiness indicators. We're not going to point out states. We're not going to say which states are doing well, which aren't. We're saying is, as a nation, how are we doing in relation to career readiness? We're positioning it as an element of economic competitiveness, and that's where we'll start the conversation in just a moment. But what we want to do is think about the investments that states are making, the outcomes they're getting, and then also the policies and practices. And that's really what this report is going to shine some light on. Just to give a sense of the context of what we're trying to do, economic competitiveness is the name of the game. This is what we're trying to help states do, improve their current economic competitiveness. As you see, we're opportunity index is indicating a drop that's happening, has been happening. And we're only getting 19 states above a score of 60, and this is rated on a score to 100. So 60 is not a great number to be looking at as our benchmark, right? And we've only got 19 that are above that. So it does mean we need to be looking at this nationally as an important issue. Also, use the Q&A. There's a Q&A section there. As questions come up or you need clarifications, please do. We should have some time for interaction. So I've got two people working with me, Aaron, Jack, and I've got Robin Koyer-Kubicek here right next to me. So they'll stop it as things come up. So definitely use the Q&A as we go forward. So here's the 15 career readiness domains that we looked at in this report. To be a data point, we needed to get data on all 50 states because we're trying to see how many states are making it. So that limited us in terms of some of the questions we can ask, but we've got a lot here to work with. One of the things we'll look at are the policies in a moment, the PCAP policies, what we call personalized career and academic plans. We've got a number of key investments that are going on nationally, and we have both federal data, but we also have some national organizations like American Student Assistance and like Advanced CTE that have also added some of that data for us, which we're really thankful for. And then finally, we've got the outcomes, which of course we're all interested in. So we'll look at some of the key outcomes as well. Now, there's no way in this 120-page report that's coming out, we're going to go through page by page. So we're going to hit some high points, and I wanted to give you kind of what we're going to be hitting on today. We're going to start with career readiness outcomes. We're going to look at post-school outcomes, and then into the opportunity youth, which is probably one of the more important issues that we need to talk about as a country. We're going to go into the career readiness policies, talk about what we found when we went into and dived into all 50 states. We're going to look at the investments with respect to work-based learning, and then we're going to look at school counselors. So again, we have a lot of data, but we're going to focus in on these, and then we'll talk about some implications and recommendations as we go forward. So let's start with post-school outcomes. We have, let me get to my page here so I can make sure I don't mess up on my notes. There we go. We have an interesting story going on around post-school outcomes. And so think about this as how well are our youth transitioning into becoming adults, young adults. When it comes to post-secondary entry, that means a 2-year or 4-year entry. 3 states were found to be doing well, okay? When it comes to CTE concentrators, and for those of you on our session today that are not familiar with career and technical education, these are individuals who have completed 2 courses in a career technical education pathway. If they've completed 2 or more courses, 40 of the states are finding that these youth are successfully transitioning in that first semester after high school. But the issue here is how we're being measured. So one of the challenges we have is that our CTE concentrators are being evaluated in terms of whether they're going into post-secondary, right, the 2-year, 4-year, but also military and also employment. And so you'll see one of our major issues is going to be how can we get an apples to apples comparison, because we should probably know about military and employment entry after high school for all youth. So that's certainly something that's high on our list of recommendations down the road. The other issue we have, though, for CTE is that this is only the concentrators. We'd like to know a lot more about who's participating in CTE and whether or not we're getting good, equitable access to our CTE program. So there's still a lot more to do. We talk about it in the report. I won't have time today to go into all those details. If there's a Q&A on the question that needs more detail, we can certainly come back and, in time to see what we have there. Now, this is where we get into an interesting part. And this is the idea of who is it that's staying connected, right, to the world of work, to education, training. A very important piece by Belfield and his colleagues, a very seminal article looking at the economic implications of what they called opportunity youth. Internationally, we call it NEAT, not in education, employment, or training. So this is a very important area that we need to be really cognizant on. And the work we're doing really is consistent with the work that is coming out of the Georgetown Center on Education and Workforce with Tony Carnival. We've checked with him. We've gone over the data with them. So we're consistent with what we're showing and what he's showing as well. But basically, we got a problem when it comes to our 20 to 24-year-olds. Only 5 states are keeping above that 90% involved in education, work, or training. This is, again, probably one of the most important areas, because if we're not getting those 20 to 24-year-olds connected, keeping them connected, they're losing out on workforce development. We're losing out on their future economic gains, but we're also going to have the social costs that come with that. So definitely something we need to be looking at nationally, I think, as a key piece. We move now to post-secondary attainment and completion rates. Now we're really focusing on the 2- and 4-year college system. Another area of concern is that when it comes to part-time students, only 1 state is keeping 80% of them more retained after 1 year. That's kind of an issue, right? Because this is a very important investment that we're making in their future, and we're wanting them to be invested. So we're losing a lot of them. It's a little bit better, I guess, but only 8 states for full-time students. So I think that's another area we really need to be wondering about. How can we improve on that 1-year retention rate as a key issue? And then we could start looking at the completion rates themselves. And so now, using a 60% as our bar, right? We've only got 5 states that are reaching above 60% completion rates in the 2-year level. It's measured out as 3 years from when they began. And then for the 4-year, it's measured out as 6 years after they began. And we've got 21 states. So a lot of improvement that we need to make as a nation in terms of ensuring that youth are able to move through the system. But we're also going to suggest another way of looking at the situation. And I'm going to go slow this down for just a moment so we can all get our heads wrapped around what we're looking at in this graph. So this is an example from the state of Massachusetts. And what we're tracking in Massachusetts is how well are our entering 9th graders doing in progressing into early adulthood. So rather than focusing on who enters the college as our benchmark, let's start at the 9th grade level. And the reason for that is we want this to be a community-related issue. We want industry seeing their investment in our high school students, as well as supporting them through post-secondary. We need our families. We need everyone to recognize that this is not just a K-12 issue, and then we're just dropping it off for it to be a higher ed issue. This is our community issue. And using this kind of waterfall analysis allows us, in this case, with just a sample high school, it allows us to see how well we're doing. And in this case, the Black students are doing great in the sense that 50% of them entered, but I don't think we're feeling great about the overall outcome, right? We need to get more students through. We're looking at less than 30% there, but less than 15% for Latinx and individuals with disabilities. So this is in one big high school in a big urban area. I'm not going to call that out. We do have the state level data as well. But the idea is, how can we then start using this kind of a model to be our real way of understanding the impact we're having? Because just getting them through the post-secondary is fine, but we've got to enter, we got to get more entering in or ready to enter into the world of work. And at our Coalition for Career Development Center, we're no longer talking about students being either career or college. They have to have both. They have to be ready to enter the world of work and looking at those credentials and the different kind of skill sets to move in. And they need to have the career navigation skills to move into the 2-year and 4-year. And as Carolyn Lee said, this is a lifelong process. So they need to be looking at how they're going to bounce in and out of the learning opportunities needed to continuously update their skills and their marketability. Anything I need to follow up on? Good.
There was a question about details that you uncovered with regard to school counselors spending majority of their time in social emotional support and versus students supporting CAPS.
Okay, I don't know what CAPS are, so we'll have to.
PCAPS, I would
What's that?
imagine. Probably the PCAPS.
Oh, the PCAP, yeah. So we're going to come to that in a little bit. We will definitely hit on the powerful role that our school counselors can play. Let's first start now with the policies. And this is now, we call it personalized career and academic plans. We've been studying this work for many years, and it was originally called individualized learning plans. Our board chair was adamant that ILP was not a very sexy title. He, along with the rest of the country. So we have the list of states that everyone's coming up with their own naming conventions. We have settled for the Coalition for Career Development Center on using personalized career and academic plans. And so that's our naming convention, but certainly look at your own state to figure out how they're looking at that. As we start to think about the role of personalized career and academic plans, we want to first showcase that we've got really strong data now coming out of West Ed. Thank you for our colleagues there, showing that when high schools were engaged in conversations each year using the personalized career and academic plans, there was an increase in post-secondary engagement. Our colleagues from OECD, and in fact, we're going to hear from Anthony Mann tomorrow. He's going to give us a little recorded comments about this major report that they did from OECD on career readiness. And they're finding wage earnings. They're finding that individuals of color from diverse backgrounds, individuals with disabilities, are the ones to gain the most out of the PCAP process. So very powerful stuff there as well. And the big issue has to do with aspirations, helping them see themselves moving forward. Something happened. Okay. Sorry about that. I'm going to have to move speakers because it looks like I have my speaker died on me. Sorry about that. Let me see if this works better. Somebody want to give us a yes, that works better? Maybe a thumbs up. We're good? Okay. Sorry about that. We will just pause and I will get my video back on. Okay. Thank you. Well, all right. So, so anyway, we've got good data saying this is huge. As in a career advising strategy, what OECD is telling us is that when you're involved in the PCAP, the youth are gaining more certainty over their future. They're getting a sense of confidence about who they can be. They're building the career navigation skills. And something we're going to come back to in this conversation is the role of meaningful career conversations. And when they've had these meaningful career conversations, they're more likely to be employed and have higher wage earnings. So we'll get into more detail on that as well. So here's some of the data on what we found. Now this, when I say we had a whole team working on investigating and really analyzing all of the personalized career and academic plan policies in all 50 states. We found 30 we felt had pretty good in-depth quality plans, which is very exciting. So it's another bright spot. We found that there were 5 that have not started yet. So that's a good sign that the majority of states are finding that the PCAP has some value for their building out the youth future readiness. However, of course, now we got issues. Funding, access to professional development. If we can't help our educators get access to the professional development, they can't really fully adopt and implement the PCAP process with quality. Another one bright spot as well was the linkage with social emotional learning. So we heard that already. Yeah, social emotional learning is actually, if you ask employers, really critical to the world of work. And so Castle's done a nice job of showcasing the intersection of those skills with the world of work. And so we're building off of that as well. And we're excited to see states are seeing that connection. Our case studies that we're going to show, I'll show you the states in a minute, really highlighted the value in the interconnection of workforce development as well. So we're excited that the PCAP is moving, but we also feel there's a lot of work now to make them fully functional and support states in implementing them with quality. This is just a piece of the national report that we put out with Castle. So hoping you'll all look at that where we're drawing the connections around the SEL is really the durable skills that youth are going to need in a 4th industrial revolution. These are the 3 states that we're featuring as our case studies. Very excited about those and hope you'll look at those. The interactive map will allow you to look and see which states we felt are offering some of the better quality policies. It was our review from our team, but it's just a way of trying to highlight and move people over. But you can also look at your own state and find out what kind of policies you have, who's the person that you can contact from your state. We're so excited and proud to be sponsoring the State Leaders Career Development Network, where we learned about a lot of these and have been working closely with your state leaders. And they're a fabulous team, and they're so collaborative and engaging. It's just one of our bright spots each month to meet with them. So a shout out to those that are on. And one of the things we did is, I know it feels like there's a lot of work to do, but there are some really exciting things happening around the country, and we've highlighted those in the report. So you're going to be able to see some of the ways that states are implementing the PCAP, some of the ways in which they're connecting up with work-based learning and how they're working with career tech ed. So we wanted to make sure we could at least showcase that there are things we can do, even though it feels like we have a lot that needs to be done. Okay, work-based learning policies. Now we're going to take a look at a report that our colleagues from American Student Assistance put together. This is where we had discussed that we've only got about 10 states that would be scored as a positive when it comes to quality work-based learning policies. This is a concern. In fact, when you see that we have few states with communications around how to explain to educators and employers and families how to connect to these work-based learning opportunities, infrastructure, for example, to make sure these things can move forward, funding incentives. We've got a lot of work we need to start looking at. Not that this is going to take money. I think this is more coordination and communication initially, but we need to help our employers recognize how they can become involved with our schools and help our schools learn how they can become involved with employers. And then we've got to get families information that are going to help them see the value of all of this as well. So we have definitely some work to do around work-based learning, and this will be actually the next year's report is going to be focusing on finding some really good case studies where industry is leading the way. We're excited to have Jason Tesco from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation leading a panel tomorrow to show us some examples of work they're doing to facilitate these. But we need state policies that can help make this work as well. So we do have some ideas. We've got some things we can be doing, but we know we've got some work to do. But let me give you the carrot. Why do we want to do this? The reason we want to do this is because we've got pretty strong data now, again, from our colleague, Anthony Mann at OECD, that every time a youth has a meaningful career conversation, their earnings go up. And what's interesting about it is there was no ceiling. Each one accounted for an additional income boost, and it kept going up the more conversations they had. This was especially true and had double the impact when we're talking about youth with disabilities or youth from diverse backgrounds, right? Low income youth. So there's a reason why we need to get employer engagement in this process, and we need to support them as well to make sure that they can have positive and effective conversations with them. So there's a lot we can do in this, but there's a really good reason for wanting to invest in work-based learning. Just a few of the examples that we have out there. We've got some great stuff happening, but we need to do more of this. Now the question, school counseling. So let's talk about that. And let's talk about the value that school counselors bring to the story. And really, let's set some roles and responsibilities so we're clear that there's a team sport involved. This is not just the school counseling issue when we talk about career advising or when we talk about the personalized career and academic. So here's what we have. Love that 28. That 28 indicates how many states are meeting the school counselor ratio of 250 to 1. This is the ASCA's recommendation. And at the high school level, we've got a pretty good situation going on. We're going to explain we have to do more in just a moment, but let's just stay positive for a minute. However, especially at the elementary level, and by elementary, we're including middle school, right? So pre-high school, it's almost 901, 900 students for every school counselor. That is a problem. If our young children starting in preschool are not getting positive images of people like them in the world of work, they don't see those occupations as viable. We're not talking about career decision-making. We're saying, where's my potential? Where's my possibilities? My possibilities, it's having mirrors. It's having this idea that I can belong in manufacturing. I can't belong in manufacturing unless I see people who look like me and are from my community. So we have a lot of work to do to help bring out these images, bring out these opportunities to connect, visit sites and things that need to happen in elementary so that by the time they enter middle school, they have a wider range, a sense of potentiality for themselves. They see that they can move and belong in many different places. So that's a major issue. The other thing we want to suggest is a big issue is that with four-year colleges increasingly, and I'm going to continue to say increasingly because I think the data is coming in nicely for many colleges, but as they start to drop the ACT and the SAT scores as part of the need to get in, that school counselor letter becomes really important because that school counselor is able to tell the college, this is the character of the person you're going to get. If those school counselors do not know the students, right, because they have such high caseloads, even at 250 to 1, and especially in our high need schools, we're going to have some significant issues. So I think we're going to have to start looking at reinvesting in high school. And we've got good data to support that. Colorado did that in their high need schools. And we have a case study for you to read on this. They went out and they added more school counselors specifically into those schools, and they had a great return on investment. Those youth were more likely to graduate. They're more likely to go on to post-secondary. So we've got some good reasons why, again, school counseling needs to be invested. But what I want to say is that in our research and in the work that OECD is doing, it is not about how well do school counselors do. The school counselor is a coordinator, a director. They are the drafter of the program. But the actual facilitation of career advising happens from our families, it happens from our educators, and it happens from our employers. When they talk about meaningful career conversations, they found strong outcomes for educator facilitated conversations as well as employer-led conversations. So we need to start opening it up, and we need to start thinking about the role that school counselor could play in this more advising. Now, did I have any Q&A that I needed to chat with? Just checking.
It says, what about career technology organizations like CTOS, FCCLA?
Yeah, love it. So when you talk about career and technical education organizations and all that, I love FCCLA. I was in Milwaukee. We had a very healthy program. Anything that gives youth confidence that they can be successful in life, and a lot of this is through the hands-on CTE work, it's all great. I would love every single student by the end of the 11th grade to have some kind of certification, even if it's a badge or whatever, but something where they can say, look what I can do. Because that student is going to enter their senior year in high school, not only feeling confident, but recognizing they have many more options in life than they thought they would have. So that becomes a really powerful thing. And it's really not a matter of setting, here are the structures that we can put in place, but how do we use career advising to help students and families see the value of these structures? How do we help them see that by participating in FCCLA, look at the public speaking skills, the leadership skills they're going to gain. Now, I'm going to step back a little bit and remind you that for me, those of you that know me, I was in 4-H, and I consider 4-H to be the reason I'm presenting in front of you today. That without having leadership development, without learning how to do public speaking, I would not have been able to do the kinds of things that I'm involved in. So I'm a huge fan of anything that's going to be hands-on, anything technical that we can use is very, very important. Any other questions or things? We're good? Okay. How are we doing on our time?
Oh, we do have one more.
Okay, I have one more.
Did they look at parameters around the career conversations? If a family was saying, we are telling you what you will do for a career, is that useful?
Yeah, no, these are perceived by the youth as a meaningful conversation. So the families can have meaningful conversations, but no, it's not my parents said I'm going to be a blank, right? So this is, they remember, they can recall that they had how many of these different conversations that occurred. And I certainly can remember mine, and I know the impact that they had.
We had another question earlier about why are we insisting on 2- and 4-year institutions as opposed to all post-secondary, including certifications. I did respond to the person that, yeah, we definitely have post-secondary for all types, and the coalition does support that. So did you want to say more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think if you've heard me speak, I'm very careful when we say employment, we're talking about post-secondary as being 2- and 4-year. We're not using the word college. And more importantly, as they leave high school, we want them to have some kind of certification and skill sets that's going to allow them to leave high school and move right into the world of work. The reason for that, I think I showed you the data on what happens at the post-secondary level. We're only getting less than 15% of certain demographic groups through that higher ed process from 9th grade. They've got to have the readiness to go into the world of work. So in no way are we meaning to make it sound like that. In fact, at the very beginning, we said we need to expand the post-school outcomes and start using that as our title. So we can also look at employment in employment outcomes, military, as well as 2 and 4 year. But I'm not going to say that 2 and 4 year doesn't have a role to play. There are a lot of important occupations that come through that 2-year certification programs that are going to happen after high school. But we want to stay agnostic. We just want to say this is all of these different avenues are fantastic. And so I hope we got that one. Yeah, we want to make sure that's clear. Anything else?
How to engage language learning families or economically challenged communities.
How do we engage in, especially our English language learners? First of all, we want to make career advising fully inclusive. Our youngsters today in middle and high school, they've got cell phones, they've got communication tasks. How do we help youth with English language learners access the activities and the engagement? Well, why don't we teach all of our youth how to work with different communication styles, with different kinds of languages? Because in the world of work, they're going to need to do that too. They're going to have to find ways to work with individuals from all over the place. So if we can help our youth, all youth, learn to create these more inclusive classrooms, then our English language learners are going to be more encouraged and feel part of the system. So that's my first step. The second is we got to have everything in different languages. And I know it's not perfect, but the Google Translate gets us started and helps us get families connected to the basic information, while we're then also trying to find a way to make sure it's in their own language. But with many of our communities, we have so many different languages represented that I think it's impossible to have all of it translated professionally. So we've got to find a way to use these different systems so we can help them access the information and the material.
2 more. Do we want to do them now or wait?
We can, I think we can.
All right. How can industry associations work with middle school career counselors to develop activities for industry to do with students?
Awesome. Yes, that's exactly the question. So that means that the schools have to have a strategy in place to support you coming in. We think that the PCAP, the Personalized Career and Academic Plan, becomes a great way for you to connect with schools and add value to what's happening and become connected in. And remember, we said that earlier, that the work-based learning policies in our states are not clearly providing you with the guidance and support you need to be able to enter those schools. We have some excellent examples of intermediaries in Iowa and some of these other places where the work-based learning boards or others basically create a position for someone who acts as an intermediary between the business community and the schools to help you as the businesses figure this out and make those connections. We're starting to rely on our chambers of commerce to kind of be that intermediary as well. So we have to create a structure, because you don't have time as someone in industry to figure out who to call or who to talk with. We have to find a way to support you to have an ease of access and engagement. There are some technologies out there that can help as well, and we need to make sure those technologies are available so you can help the schools and the districts understand that you're available to support them. So that's another piece that
We have
all right.
question in the chat that
Okay.
says, do you use personality tests or profiles?
No. How about that? The challenge we have with personality tests, interest assessments, is that many of our youth from lower income backgrounds have already decided they don't belong in so many different areas. And so when you're giving them an interest assessment, what you're looking at is what it is that society has said is reasonable for them to think about. That's a problem. So we want that. And then the other issue with personality is personalities in development. We're more interested in malleable skills. We're interested in self-efficacy. We're interested in motivation. We're interested in engagement, proactivity. The personality assessments are really looking at things that are built in that we can't control and we can't really, by nature, if they are formally personality and traits, they're not things that are as open to change. Our belief is let's focus on the skills they have, help them understand the range of opportunities that align to those skills, which is so fun to do. In our work, we find that once they look at it from a skills perspective, they realize they have 500 occupations to match up, and who would have known? So it gets them excited about their future, as opposed to, and then later, maybe in the later high school, once they've got an identity formed, certainly we can then start looking at interest assessments, we can look at personality, but we don't want to be leading with that from my perspective. And those that have heard me talk know that I have strong feelings about it. And we can do more conversation offline about it. So let me go to our, how much time do we have? We're at time?
We have 8 minutes.
We have 8 minutes. Wow, look at that timing. Okay, so let me get to the finish line here and just talk about some recommendations we're thinking about. We think that a national and as well as a state coordinating, our career readiness coordinating council is necessary. That we need a body working with the federal government as well as federal agencies, cross agencies, working with key national figures and organizations to build out that post-school dashboard, right? How can we help all states have access to career readiness indicators that they can look at? And so that takes some national effort, but also how do we have conversations about the practices? How do we help states realize there's many things they could chin, even within their state context, that would make sense as they start to improve on career readiness? So it's going to take having both that national coordinating council, but also states having them, and many states already do have the cross-sector teams working on this. So it gives them a place to come and talk about, share practices, and really really move into more practice as well. So that's one of the areas that we're thinking about. We also think it'd be important for at the National Coordinating Council level to investigate current federal policies like our TRIO programs, the WEOA legislation, Perkins 5, and really look at where the words or the practices around career readiness can be found and where we can encourage more career readiness practices within the existing legislation and funding. We need to really focus on work-based learning. You've already heard an employer coming on today saying, how do I find out how to work? We need to figure this out. We need to help our community find a way to connect our business community directly with our schools so they can access youth and be that encouraging role model that we need them to be. So we want to be finding what are the policies that are happening in those states where this is going well. We want to start expanding more of the regional collaborations that are starting to happen around the country. So I know the new skills for the new skills project that is happening with Education Strategies Group and Advanced CTE with support from JP Morgan Chase. Great models we need to blow up nationally so that we're getting the higher ed, the K-12 employer communities connecting with one another to really build out a system where we can all build future success for all youth. We want to also mobilize more investment in the personalized career and academic plans. It's great that we have policy, but going from policy to adoption and effective implementation is a long road. We have to have the materials and supports, and we have to find new strategies to help our educators and our community-based organizations be able to connect to the kinds of practices that we know are going to be supporting our youth. And then again, career advising. We do need to start looking at our investment in school counselors, not only to the extent that they should be helping to coordinate the personalized career and academic plan design and implementation, but also we need to start moving into the elementary and middle school levels and really building out a stronger case for the value they're going to bring to supporting youth at that early stages, so that by the time they get to middle school, they're hitting the ground running because they have a sense of relevance to the additional opportunities that they have. And I think that is that. So thank you very much. I see there was a lot going on in the chat room, so I'll try to catch up while we're moving. We still have some time. If there's anyone that has a Q&A that they want to bring up, that would be great. And we can just take a couple more minutes to chat about it before we transition.
Is there a focus on teaching young people the career development process versus picking one job or career in their early teens or 20s?
Absolutely. We do not want to use the word career choice and decision-making anymore. We want to talk about career navigation skills. So in our work around the personalized career and academic plans, we talk about three major skills. Self-exploration skills. That's why we don't do assessments. We have them learn who they are on their own terms, have their own narratives about their skills, and learn how those skills are relevant in the world of work. So we talk about that as career exploration skills. How do they learn how to look at labor market information, how to look at post-secondary pathways and training pathways? What can they do right now in work-based learning? We need them to learn those skill sets. And then career management skills, which is really, what are the ways in which we get there? What are the other navigation skills I need? Time management, financial literacy. There's a whole range of things. So no, we're not focusing at all on the traditional, let's find out what you're best able to do, or let's find the right career path. These youth are going to be living to 100, and every time I say that, someone says, well, I'm planning to live to 150. They got a long ways to go. If we're not teaching them the skills to navigate how to connect with employers, how to connect with education and other training options, then we're doing a disservice for all of our current students.
We have a state-specific question. Can you briefly share how South Carolina became a leader in staffing career specialists?
Can you believe that? Absolutely. They got in early. They were one of the early adopters of this whole thing. And they went with NCDA, so National Career Development Association at the time, as a career facilitator, kind of like an early career advising certification that they have. And they just decided we're going to pay to help make sure every school has one. Now, in the early days, and they'll be the ones to tell you, the schools weren't ready for that. And so a person would come in, I'm going to do it, and everyone stepped away. Since then, everyone's starting to buy in more. Now that you've had someone in there in place who's responsible for designing the kinds of activities and programs, you're starting to get so much more of of traction in the schools for that more whole school response. So South Carolina's bought in. They have been a leader around this whole idea of career and technical education, but also, and they've got some great opportunities there. But no, they've just been out there doing some great stuff. Can you get my computer cord? And then I also want to say that yes, go NCDA, but also go ASCA. The American School Counseling Association now has a career advising certification as well. So we're going to stay agnostic. We're going to have them both on a panel. I need my cord right there.
This is mine.
Okay, lost it. Maybe there. Sorry, my cord's about to die here because I had to change earlier. So, and then so the American School Counseling Association and executive director and the president of NCDA will be on a panel tomorrow. And we're so excited to have them come together because they both have so much to offer. So we want to replicate South Carolina all over the country. We want to really build, and Leo's been on this since this center began. We really need to build the certification skill sets of our career advisors. We need to professionalize this and really give them something that they can feel confident in and we can feel confident in as we move forward. So go South Carolina. Thank you for being the starting, but we want to keep going with that. I see Brian smiling. I hope he's agreeing with me here.
Scott,
I know Wisconsin's doing great too, Brian. I wasn't meaning to just call on South Carolina.
I absolutely agree. And there's so much chat going on right now. People are excited about what you've just presented. I think you've hit right on the target for why we needed this summit, was to build some awareness and momentum. I think you started out today sharing with us some real challenges that we face, but gave us optimistic opportunity to build off of some of the best practices that already exist in the nation. So I'm just so grateful that you took the time to kind of walk us through that. And I think what I'm going to just share with the rest of the audience here is